Jesus, you are absolutely beautiful. We thank you for your presence in this place tonight. We thank you for the awe of your presence, Lord. You are absolutely stunning. We stand in awe of you today, Jesus. We have come to give you all the glory and honor because there is nobody like you. There is no other God but you. I stand in awe because when I can see you take someone that nobody else wants to use and you can turn it into something beautiful, that's what we stand in awe of. Just how amazing you are, how beautiful you are, how gracious you are, Lord. We will never get used to your presence. We will never express familiarity with you, God. Father, we say thank you. Thank you for your beauty. Thank you for your glory. Just give God a big shout of praise. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Hallelujah. Thank you, God. Give him a shout of praise. Give him a shout of praise. Woo, thank you, Jesus. Hallelujah, hallelujah. You may all be seated, please. You may all be seated. Thank you, Lord. You know, it's a privilege to be able to bring the word of the Lord to you all today. I want to thank God for this moment right here. And I just ask you, Lord, my Heavenly Father, that you use me this afternoon. In 1 minute, I just want you to lift your voice and just ask God for an encounter with the word. Ask God to give you an encounter. I'm just here preaching. I'm really nothing. What gives you an encounter is the voice of the Lord spoken through the preacher. Ask God to give you your own revelation from the word today. Lift up your voice in 1 minute. I just need you to lift up your voice and ask God for an encounter this afternoon. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Lord, I surrender everything to you. I surrender my mouth. I surrender everything about me, Lord. Don't let me get in the way of you. Make my tongue the pen of a ready writer. In Jesus' name. Amen. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Thank you, Lord. You know, when I was thinking about this word today in this conference, I remembered my days of captivity. I remember when I was in bondage. Even when I was saved, I was still in captivity. And I remember in those moments I would cry out and I would be like, God, why don't you rescue me? Why don't you deliver me? I'm praying, I'm fasting. Why can't I see the results that I've been asking you to see? And he answered me with one simple statement. He said, because you never made room for justice. I bring you the word today titled, Make Room for Justice. I'm going to start with the reading of the word in Job chapter 9, verse 14 to 35. Can we have that on the screen, please? Amen. Thank you, Father. As we wait for that to come up on the screen, I'm going to read it in the CEV version, because when Job was talking to God, I was just astonished at the way he began to speak. Thank you, Jesus. Hallelujah. Verse 14. He says, how then can I possibly argue my case with God? Even though I am innocent, I can only beg for mercy. And if God came into court when I called him, he would not hear my case. He would strike me with a storm and increase my injuries for no reason at all. Before I could get my breath, my miseries would multiply. How many of y'all been there before? You like, the more I pray, the more I'm stricken. God is much stronger than I am, and who would call me into court to give me justice? Even if I were innocent, God would prove me wrong. I am not guilty, but I no longer cares what happened to me. I recognize that. When you just like, you know what? Kill me if you have to. What difference does it make? God destroys the innocent along with the guilty. When a good person dies a sudden death, God sits back and laughs. Really? And who else but God blindfolds the judges, then lets the wicked take over the earth? As I read that scripture, as I read that passage, I realized when God was speaking, when Job was speaking to the Father, I'm going to keep reading until I get to 35. Amen. My life is speeding by without a hope of happiness. Each day passes swifter than a sailing ship or an eagle swooping down. Sometimes I try to be cheerful and stop complaining, but my sufferings frighten me because I know that God still considers me guilty. So what's the use of trying to prove my innocence? Even if I washed myself with the strongest soap, God would throw me into a pit of stinking slime, leaving me disgusting to my clothes. God isn't a mere human like me. I can't put him on a trial. Who could possibly judge between the two of us? Can someone snatch away the stick God carries to frighten me? Then I could speak up without fear of him. But for now, I cannot speak. In Job 23, 1-7, Job began to complain bitterly to God. As I heard him challenging God, basically what Job was trying to do in this passage was he was trying to take God to court. He had been so stricken, he had been so laid out, he had come to a place of total frustration where so many of us have been before. So he began to challenge God. And in Job 23:10, he says, but he knows what I am doing, and when he tests me, I will be as pure as gold. But he had it twisted. He was taking the wrong person to the courtroom. Job was suffering this whole time, and he had the wrong opponent. So God is looking at him like, okay, I know you're upset, I know what you're going through, but you got the wrong one. I am not the reason for your downtroddenness. I'm not the reason for your strickenness. And in fact, you trying to challenge me, you taking me to the court, and God is telling Job, now you got the wrong one. Because you don't even know who your opponent is. You don't even know who your opposer is. And God decides to silence Job in a second. He says in Job 40:6-9, he says, then out of the storm, the Lord said to Job, face me and answer the questions I ask. Are you trying to prove that you are innocent by accusing me of injustice? This is God now. Do you have a powerful arm and a thundering voice that compares with mine? So God is trying to tell him, when you can begin to create the earth like I can, when you become supernatural like me, then you can take me to court. But until you can do that, have a seat, because I'm not your opponent. So Job then gets a piece of humble pie. He's like, oh yeah, you know what, God, I kind of realized that I'm not like you at all. And when I looked at when he was challenging God, he began to tell God how righteous he is. He began to confront God as if God owed him something. Yes, God, you see, he began to look at the protection that God had over Job as if it was his right. But it was a privilege. So God is looking at him like, okay, I know you're going through things. Don't blame me for what you're going through. All I simply did was take off the hedge that I privilegedly gave to you to protect you and keep the enemy from coming near you. I am not your opponent. When Job decides to humble himself, and you can see through the passages as the friends were telling him and arguing, and some were trying to, help him out and say, don't challenge God, and some were trying to make him question God. God decides to challenge all of them. And then when Job humbled himself, Job prayed for his friends. He humbled himself, mercy. He realized, you know what? I've been wrong this whole time. I can never be righteous, even if I tried. I could never be qualified. All that arrogance I was displaying, I'm sorry. And then in Job chapter 42, verse 10, he said, and the Lord restored Job's losses when he prayed for his friends. Indeed, the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had before. Thank you, Jesus. I had to give this synopsis. This is not, I'm just laying the foundation for where I'm headed today. Holy Spirit, help me. Thank you, Jesus. When the Lord told me you didn't make room for justice, I began to study what justice was about. So I began to look at the context of justice. So I began to look at the definition of what justice is. Justice is restoration. The definition for justice is to make things right. So if the definition of justice, and you're telling me I should get justice, make room for justice, what does this justice really mean? What is your definition of what makes things right really means? He said, okay, oftentimes I realize when we are looking to be free, all we're focused on is being delivered, right? We stop at the place of deliverance. Lord, set me free. I'm tired of this bondage. I'm tired of being sick. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of that. Set me free. But when we're asking God for this freedom, we don't realize that being free is not where it ends at all. When you have been in captivity for so long, as many can relate to Job, when you have been you're in bondage and you're asking God for justification, you have to understand what it means for justice to really be served. What God's idea of justice is restoration. Because when he sets you free, it's not just about the freedom is not enough. Freedom, when he sets you free, you have to start from scratch. When he said, you may not have the chains on you no more, but where are you going to start from? That's not complete. A lot of people, we get into the presence of the Lord, deliver me, deliver me, deliver me, and you don't really end up free indeed because you don't understand what justice is really about. Now, justice is to restore, right? Let's dissect what that word restore is about. Restore is not the same as recovery. When we're talking about the justice of God, recovery is for God to just give you back what you lost. That's recovery. There's a difference. But when we're talking about restore, God is not only supposed to give you back what you recovered, but he's supposed to give you much more. Thank you, Jesus. When I looked at the word restoration, I began to look up the Hebrew meaning of the word restoration. It means aruka. I like looking at the Hebrew word because it gives me the definition in a different context. So as I looked it up, it says healing and restore. So healing is to make like new. When you go for surgery or you go to the doctor and he fixes something, they might stitch you up. But healing is a brand new entire organ entirely. It's new. He's not just going to give you the one from before, but he's going to give you something new. Amen? Now, so I said, God, if your package is restoration, then why are so many people just being delivered? Because we often think that that's where it just ends. Why is it that we need more than what we left behind? Why are you trying to restore us? And he said, before I can understand why God is trying to restore me, he said, I have to understand why I was in prison in the first place. You can't understand restoration until you understand why the devil is trying to lock you up. Why is it that he's choosing to come for you? Why is it that out of your family, out of your friends, out of your neighborhood, out of your bloodline, the devil got you in captivity? What is it about? I said, okay, what is this really about then? Why is the enemy coming for you, for me? You see, if the enemy can lock you up, he can get access to the book that God has for you in heaven. He gets access. You see, let me explain something about your books, right? He said, before I created you in the womb, I knew you. God has a book on everyone concerning, everything concerning everybody here. And your book is not just about you. See, if the devil can get to you and he wants to get to your book, he's not just going to access you. Praise the Lord, the devil is a liar. He's not just going to access you. He's going to access the destinies attached to you. So when God creates you, he didn't stop there. He said, I formed you in the womb and I created you a prophet to the nations. So when the enemy is coming for you, he's coming not just for you, but for the nations inside of you. Listen. We got to get out of this selfish mentality and this, oh, Lord, woe is me stuff. It's not even about you. The enemy, he could care less about a singular you. Many are called, but few are chosen. There are some that even from the womb, the devil got his eye on you. He got a red target label. And he says, if I can just capture the books of this one, then I can conquer a whole nation. And when God is able to access your books, right, and he conquers a nation, guess what the devil is doing to God? He's making God reset his time. God entrusts us destinies. And when the enemy is able to access these destinies, God almost becomes handicapped. Can you imagine God handicapped? This is why he said it is crucial for you to understand what justice really is. Because when God's time is wasted, he has to wait for a whole nother generation to do what he assigned a particular generation to do. That's why when we come in disobedience and we like to dwell on our captivity, we are wasting God's time. He has made room for justice. It's not about you. It's not about you. It's about the nations in your womb. You see, God doesn't call individuals, he calls tribes. He doesn't call even just tribes. He calls generations. And depending on the weight of you, who you are, is going to be the weight of the imprisonment that you're going through. I want to read from Ezekiel 37, 6 to 17 here for you to understand how God doesn't just look at you as an individual. He's looking at you as a nation. So when the enemy got you in prison, he got a whole nation in prison, and you don't even know it. Ezekiel 37, 6 to 17 says, as for you, son of man, take a stick for yourself and write on it. For Judah and for the children of Israel, his companies. Then take another stick and write on it, for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, and for all the house of Israel, his companies. Then join them one to another for yourself unto one stick, and they will become one in your hand. When he told him, take the stick, why did he just tell him, write your name on it? Or why didn't he tell him, write Joseph on it? He said, take one for Joseph, but make sure you write Ephraim on the stick, because it wasn't about Joseph in that moment. It was about the nation. It was about that tribe of Israel. This is when I begin to understand that, you see, the nation, the destinies in your womb, your children, not just your children, but the demographic in which God has called you to, your freedom, they are dependent on your freedom. That's why you're going through what you're going through. Why is it that when you're praying and you're praying the wrong, you're taking God to the courtroom instead of taking the right opponent to the courtroom. You're challenging God like how I used to, crying out, God, why do you do this to me? Don't you see that I'm serving you? Don't you see that I'm fasting? Don't you see that I'm this? Don't you see that I'm that? And God is like, who are you? It's about the nations, not you. And number two, I'm not even your opponent. Wake up and fight the right way. Now, thank you, Jesus. So I'm going to go back to restore. As I was saying before that, it's about the nations, right? So I'm going to read from Zechariah 3, verse 1 to 2. And he said in the word, I was given another vision. This time, Joshua the high priest was standing in front of the Lord's angel. And there was Satan, there he goes again, the accuser of the brethren, standing at Joshua's right side, ready to accuse him. But the Lord said, Satan, you are wrong. Now, God became the advocate of I'm sorry about that, say that again? Joshua the Levite, amen. God became his advocate because when he created Joshua, he already knew the nations that were in his womb. So there was something that Joshua did. If you begin to read the history of Joshua the Levite, who became the high priest, there was something that he did. He mistakenly gave a sacrifice the wrong way. So Satan, the accuser of the brethren, who is always nitty-picky, he began to stand in front of God and said, this man is not qualified to be a high priest because of this one single error that he made. One single error. But I love what God said to him at this time when he said, Satan, you're wrong. Notice what he called Joshua. Can we get Zechariah 1 to 2 up here, please? You see, when God has to step in for you as an advocate, you know it's serious. You know it's a big deal. If we don't get it up there, I'm going to still move on. In the next part, he says, Jerusalem is my chosen city, not Joshua. He was accusing Joshua, but God said, Jerusalem is my chosen city. And this man was rescued like a stick from a flaming fire. Do we understand that context right there? When a stick is rescued when someone is rescued like a stick from a flaming fire? Jerusalem was a nation that was really important to God. It was not just an ordinary place. So even though Joshua had filthy garments on him, and the devil is standing, accusing him, saying, I will not allow you to move forward in destiny because of this error. Now, the enemy might look like he's bringing a sin against you, but he's more concerned about the damage that you're going to do to his kingdom. And if we look at the assignment that God had for Joshua in Jerusalem, Joshua didn't even realize the dexterity of his assignment yet. He's just standing before God helpless in his filthy garments, like how we come before God helpless in our filthy garments. And woe is me. Lord, I'm tired. Lord, I'm this, and Lord, I'm that. And now the devil knows who you are more than you know who you are. So he's standing making sure that by any means necessary, you stay incapacitated exactly where you are, and you are not allowed to move forward. But God said, no, Satan, shut up. Because I rescued this one like a stick from a flaming fire. There's a reason why you made it past your captivity. You were supposed to die in the womb. Let me give myself for an example. I'm going to preach to myself first because, listen, when my captivity was just not an ordinary captivity like so many people here, I had battles from the womb. My mom, she didn't even know she was pregnant with me until months after. And she said she planned to take me out. But the doctor told her that if you take this one out, it's going to be crucial for you and you may not make it. She was already 5 months pregnant. So she attempted it and it wasn't possible. Then when it was time for delivery, I refused to come out. 10 months gone now. 10 months has passed. I'm still in the womb because the enemy saw what was going to happen today. He knew that me being born was not just going to be for me. It was for the nations inside of my belly. So he made sure he did whatever he could to keep me incapacitated at that time. And I had so many controversies, like so many of us. The unwanted child, rejection after rejection. I didn't know my father till I was 21, and all of this and all of that. I was bullied, sexual abuse, all of these, so many things, captivities that I went through. See, there's a captivity you go through before you meet Jesus. And then when you meet Jesus, the devil intensifies the captivity so he can make you feel like you're on the wrong side. But even in the midst of my captivity, God was strengthening my muscles. There's going to come a point in time where God will tell Satan to shut up on your behalf, only if you persist and don't give up. When you're serving the Lord, you have to understand what the assignment is about. It's not about you. Your marriage is not just about you. Yeah, you might be in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, and you're not married yet, but you got to understand why you're being held back first before you can get the justice that you deserve. When you're asking God, Lord, give me this, give me money, give me why, I'm tired. Approach God the right way. Take a moment and understand, why is the enemy, maybe that marriage is going to, 2 shall chase 10,000. Did you think of that? It's not about just having a spouse. It's about what 2 of you are going to do when you combine and tear down the kingdom of darkness. It's not about you. Now, when God, let's understand restoration right there. Why it wasn't just about delivering. It was not just about delivering this man of God. He had the anointing of a high priest. Joshua the Levite was a high priest. We know there's 2 different Joshuas in the Bible, but this particular one, God had assigned him to rebuild the temple of Jerusalem. If Joshua was not able to step into that position, then the completion of that temple would have never been completed. There are some assignments that God is waiting for you to step in, and that assignment can never be complete until you step into it, but God has to change your garment first. And he said, yeah, you might have been in you might be in situations where it's impossible to get out of. Some of y'all might have grew up in the hood. Y'all grew up in the hood. I did all of this and all of that. You ain't got no money to go to school. It looks impossible. Everybody in your family is a gangbanger, or you might have this disease that's going to kill you and all of this and that. But he said, I rescued him like a stick from the fire. A stick is not supposed to survive in the fire. But when God steps into that fire and he says, you know what, Satan, I need this one, because it's not about this one. It's about the nations inside of his belly. So I don't care what he did. I'm about to step in and rescue him. You need to understand it ain't about you. Make room for justice. Now, I'm getting somewhere. Hallelujah. This is how important it was to the rebuilding of the temple of justice. I'm going to read from Ezra 1-2. And we know that that man of God, the high priest, is the one that preceded Ezra, which was another great man of God. And it said, then the prophet Haggai and Zechariah, the son of Iddo, prophets prophesied the Jews were in Judah and Jerusalem in the name of God Israel, who was over them. So Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, and Joshua, the son of Jozadak, rose up and began to build the house of God, which is in Jerusalem. Then the prophets of God were with them and helping them. Now, that's how God restored Joshua the Levite. He made him a high priest. So even he could have stopped at Joshua, let me just take off your old filthy garments and leave it there and leave you naked or give you regular clothes. But the justice would have not been completed. He said he put on him a priestly garment. And he didn't even just stop at the garment. He put a crown on his head as a high priest. God is not, you see, all the captivity that you went through, you need to stop focusing on being free, because it's not just about freedom. When God is going to restore you, when God is going to capture you and take you out, it's not about deliverance. He's going to restore you, everything that you lost, everything that you were deprived of, every rejection that you face, every health battle that you face. He's going to give you more and better, because he has a point to prove. Thank you, Jesus. Now, this is, as I was looking at this, and he began to explain further that the word restore, why he gives you not just new, but more than enough. Yes, he's a God of more than enough. He's a generous God. But did you ever think that when God restores somebody, he gives them, it almost seems like it's too much. Now it looks like it's unfair. Well, because when he's giving you all these things, you need to understand that it's not just for you. It's for the people that he sent you to. Now, let's look at the life of Joseph, right? Joseph was in captivity at the age of 17. He spent all that time in prison. When he came out of prison at the age of, he was out and he was in doing things in prison. When he came out, he became a prime minister at the age of 30. You see, a prime minister at the age of 30 is completely out of order. If you know prime ministers, it takes way older than 30. What I'm trying to say is, when God restores your life, yes, you've been in prison, you've been in captivity all these years, you've been in bondage, you've been the one that nobody looked at, you've been the one that nobody favored, but when God decides to restore you, it's going to look like God is not fair. Listen. When God, he said, listen, he let me stay in a prison for that long. He said, because I'm not going to, I've given you jurisdiction, but I'm not even going to let you get the mysteries of what I'm trying to tell you yet until you understand something here. Because by the time you're in prison and you're flexing your muscles, even you may be in captivity, but don't cry in captivity. Sharpen your blade in captivity. Begin to use the giftings that God has given you, even in captivity. Because just because you're held captive doesn't mean that God's favor is not upon you. Where did they find Joseph from? In the prison. Where was he captured from to prime ministership? From the prison. If Joseph just walked out of prison just like that, he would have had to start all over, start from scratch. Let me go back to my brothers. Let me go back to my father. But God said, no, if you can understand why you're in the prison, your attitude will begin to adjust and you'll begin to have a different perspective. You could be in a prison. It's not going to last long, but I need you to change your perspective. Switch it up. When he began to change his perspective and he said, God, I surrender. He said he came out, and see, there's going to be a gifting that only you're going to have in your prison. Even in captivity, somebody is going to look for you in that captivity, because when God said he rescued him like a stick from a fire, he's going to have to, he didn't rescue him from the bushes, he rescued him from the fire. How is God going to get glorified if you're going to be somewhere that you can easily be found? They got to find you in the prison. In captivity. Now people probably looking at Joseph like, who were you to tell the Pharaoh his dream? And excuse me? I've been in captivity all this while. You have no idea what I've been through. You have no idea the turmoil I've been through. When my brothers threw me in prison, when my brothers completely drenched me, some of y'all, everybody has turned their back on you. Nobody understands you. People have forgotten you and said there is no hope for you. You are a forgotten issue. Joseph, they thought he was dead. They thought he was dead. But he was sharpening his blade in prison. And when God decided to favor him and honor him, he was elevated to the second in command of the whole entire Egypt. But check this out. If God would have taken him out of the prison and let him go free, that's why I said you can't just be asking for deliverance. He would have been out of the prison and delivered, but that's not where it ends. If God would have taken me out of my captivity, I wouldn't have been here today. See, there is a blessing in the captivity when you know where you're going and when you know who you're sent to. You see, when I was in my obscure moments, many people didn't see me. There'll be times I'm even trying to talk and people always talk over me. I was the least preferred, hardly ever favored. And God told me something. If you can just stay in this place, I know where I'm going to take you to. I know, see, listen. Nobody needs to hear you in captivity yet. I hear you. Because when it's time for your voice to be launched, the whole entire nation is going to hear you. It's not just going to be about you. Understand why you're held up. Understand, yeah, the devil, you threatened by me. Yeah, I understand. You're not the victim. You're the victor. God has to put you on a plateau so that you can be an example to the generation that thinks that there is no hope. Joseph was captured. He didn't go back to his father's house. God put him in position as the prime minister, because guess what? The same brothers who left him for dead, the same father who didn't even know where he was. He didn't send a rescue mission out for Joseph. He just mourned him and said it was done. Joseph was left for dead. How many of y'all been left for dead? I don't know if y'all even understand what I'm talking about here. When nobody believes in you and people tell you that nothing is going to come out of you. Like they told Jesus, can anything good come out of Nazareth? Can anything good come out of this one? Joseph was forgotten. But he had a gift. He had something inside of him that if the king didn't have access to it, the whole entire Egypt would have perished. If Joseph wasn't in captivity at that time, where would the Pharaoh have located the rescue mission for the whole entire Egypt? I need y'all to understand that it may look like you're captive, right? It may look like you're in one position. God is seeing you. He's waiting for you to understand, because we're that one position, even if it's the bottomless pit, by the time he reach in and bring you right out, he's going to place you on top. And the same people who put you in the prison is going to need your help. Listen, that's why you can't make noise even in captivity. Oh, they don't see me. Oh, Lord, I don't got this. Oh, no, God, what you want me to do while I'm here? Okay, you want me to read this book? This is my first time on the altar preaching, but I've been preaching to myself. I've been in the Word. When I was in captivity, and he said David consoled himself in the Lord, I began to console myself in the Lord. Even though nobody wants to hear me, my God is hearing me. I'm going to sharpen my blade. I'm going to become a sniper, even if nobody is seeing me, because snipers, when they move, you don't see them, but they still kill. Okay? I'm okay with not being seen because I know where God is taking me. When Joseph became prime minister, the brothers came to find him. They didn't even recognize him. How many of y'all been in situations where, oh, y'all getting there? If you ain't been there yet, just get ready. Get ready, get ready. Somebody walk past you that you know, and they don't even know it's you. Somebody hear you talking, and they like, that's her? They don't even know. Somebody hear you singing. Is that the same so-and-so from way back when? You mean the same person that we left in prison? You mean the same person that we left for dead? You mean the same person that we forgot? You mean the same person that the ministry looked like it was closed up? You mean the same person that their house was foreclosed? You mean the same person that was left and rejected? That's him? That's him. But before they could even recognize him, they came for help. You see, the rejected stone always becomes the chief cornerstone. The same person that they leave for dead is always the person that God uses to be your lifespan at the end of the day. If you can just humble yourself, the Bible says he humbled himself under the hand of the Lord, and he exalted him in due time. See, the process, when you look at the prison, if you're serving the Lord faithfully and God has you in that place, or he allowed you to stay in that place, he's trying to make you understand something. You're going to have to learn a science of humility. When you get to the top, you understand where you're coming from, and the limelight doesn't shake you one bit. Because while I was in a prison, I was lifting weights. When nobody wanted to accept me into their school, I was studying in the prison. When nobody accepted me on their pulpit, I was still preaching in the prison to myself or one or two people. So when by the time Joseph, the same brothers in the famine that God used Joseph to deliver, I said, I need food. It was Joseph that he recognized them first. See, sometimes you're going to see them before they see you. Don't get mad that they can't recognize you, because when the glory of the Lord comes upon you, they didn't have the eyes to see you then. They still ain't got the eyes to recognize you in glory. Okay? So you can't be offended by the people. So when the brothers came to him, Joseph was like, oh, you need food? But these are my same brothers. These are the same people that left me for dead. God is going to see what you're going to do in that moment. Joseph took a moment. I was upset. Yeah, I was upset. He went away for a second. Then he realized, I'm the prime minister. If I leave my brothers right now, they will end up dead. They may have put me in captivity, but it turned out for my favor. And then in that moment, Joseph was the one that had to reveal himself to his brothers. See, when God sends you back somewhere, and when God delivers you from somewhere, they don't recognize you. You're going to have to be the one to humble yourself and deliver them and reveal that God still saves. Don't give up on nobody, because when God, see, you don't have the right to put nobody in prison. When God saves you, it is for you to go back and save your nations. Don't walk around in bitterness. Don't walk around with that heartburn, because listen, if you ended up in captivity because God allowed you to be there, he has a plan. There are nations in your belly. I'm still landing. We just still laying the foundation, amen? Hallelujah, hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. Now, when we understand these things, we understand why we've been in prison. We understand all of these things, how and why, and the restoration and all of that. But now the question you ask yourself, is it legal to have me in prison? When you're in the prison and you're trying to be free, you have to understand that sometimes we stay in the prison because we don't know that we're illegally in the prison. See, there are different kinds of imprisonments now. If Satan has captured you because of your bloodline, it's illegal. When you see people, the oppression that's going on in America, a lot of people get arrested because they don't know their rights. You are being held in captivity because you don't understand that it's illegal. It has become illegal. That is why we have the system of the courtroom. See, the system of the courtroom, people think it's an act of legalism. No, it's an act of grace. We can step into the holies of holies now because of what Christ did for us. It has become illegal. When you understand that your imprisonment and your bondage, yes, God may have kept you, God may have allowed you to go through it, but when it's time to be rescued, the power lies inside of you. But you're going to remain in captivity beyond your time if you don't even know your rights. Why do people stay in prison? Because of lack of knowledge. He said it in Hosea, my people perish for lack of knowledge. Do you know that people have been in prison in this present day and age and they died in prison being innocent? It is possible to be completely locked up and not know that you have that destiny and stay in prison until you die. And it will be nobody's fault but yours. Because God already made it illegal. It is completely illegal. And we need to understand that factor before we move on. Why? How is it illegal? He said it in Isaiah 53, verse 8. He said he was taken from prison and from judgment. Who will declare to this generation? For he was cut off from the land of the living. For the transgressions of my people, he was stricken. If we read that whole Isaiah 53, from 1 to 11, everything that you see written there is what makes it impossible for you to go through what Christ is going through. See, there's a place of the process and the torment. You have to understand if you're in process or you're being held captive by the devil. That's why when Job was talking to God about relief, God been proved this point. God been told him, like, listen, I trust my servant Job. Even if you take everything, he's still going to serve me. He already proved that. But instead of Job understanding who his opponent was, he was talking to the wrong opponent. When in this day and age, when Christ has died for us on the cross, it is illegal to be held captive. But you would have to understand that by studying the Word of God. Why is imprisonment so successful? Why is it that you finish going through your process and in Christ, as someone that is born again, sanctified, saved, speaking in tongues, you're still held captive after the process? Why? Because you don't even know your word. You don't know your rights. If an officer decides to hold you captive at a place of arrest, but with something that you have the right to be doing, it is illegal. But when you end up in prison, you can still end up in prison. Just because it's illegal don't mean it's possible. It's impossible. It can be illegal, but it is still possible. I want us to understand why the enemy is so successful. I need us to be a real chosen generation, a real free generation, and begin to release our minds from this place of captivity. We are illegally being withheld against our rights. When Christ, he said he was bruised for our transgression. He was in Christ, everything that Christ did leading up to the cross, we are not supposed to go through anymore. We're not supposed to be sick. We're not supposed to be broke. We're not supposed to be rejected. We're not supposed to be in pain. We're not supposed to go to hell. Christ said on the way to the cross, they put him in prison against his captivity. So if you find yourself in that prison, you got to check, did Christ go through this for me? I'm illegally held against my will. You have to know your rights. You cannot allow the devil to continue to molest you and keep you in a place of captivity. The only way you know your rights is when you know the word. When you understand what your rights are as a believer, it's the same way a citizen has to understand their rights as a citizen in that nation. You are a child of God. What does God say? Who does God say I am? What does God allow on my behalf? You see, when he was in prison in the book of Acts 16:37, and they held him in prison, he said, y'all not going to just quietly put me in prison like this. Make it public when you release me. Because he told them, he said, they have uncondemned Romans and thrown us into prison, and now they put us out secretly. No, indeed. Let them come themselves and get me out. When you know your rights, the enemy just can't push up on you just like that. I remember those days of my captivity in the very beginning when I would be oppressed by the devil would be pressing my neck. I would have these dreams. I would be crying in fear. And God told me, he got fed up. He said, do you know who you are? And one day God showed me in a dream when I would live in constant fear. And he showed me in a dream, and I was tiny in the dream, and there were these like figurines people that kept pushing me around and pushing, and I was bullied as a child in school and all that, so that level of oppression was a seed in my mind. So in the dream, that's how the enemy wanted to continue and keep bullying me. So in the dream, I was crying out to God, and he told me, open your eyes and see your size. And I opened my eyes in a dream, and all of a sudden I became like a giant. And them same figurines that were pushing me around, I began to have the ability to step on them. Because see, now I know my position. If this thing is illegal, devil, I know my rights. You don't have the right to keep me captive. Doesn't mean he's not going to try it. We have to stop getting from the notion that the devil is not going to form the weapons. God never promised you that. He's going to try you. But do you know your rights? When the enemy comes against you with failure, are you going to accept the failure, or do you know your rights? Get up and try again and get your covenant package and tell the devil, this belongs to me. I know my rights. Now, I want us to understand the system now. Now we know our rights. Why is the enemy so successful at being in prison? Because of our lack of knowledge. So when we get a little bit of knowledge and we know what Christ did for us, I want us to not make the mistake of blaming God for things God has had nothing to do with. See, in the system of any court system that works, and there are many wrongfully imprisoned people, when someone is wrongfully in prison, there's a process called exoneration. You're exonerated. I'm going to read the definition of exoneration. He said, gives wrongfully convicted individuals a second chance at life. It is the legal act of absolving someone from blame. Exoneration refers to the court taking back a defendant's criminal conviction, vindicating the defendant with the official absolution of a guilty verdict. Exoneration requires a reversal of a criminal conviction through a display of innocence. A flaw in the original judgment. It's a flaw in the original judgment. It's a mistake. You are illegally incapacitated because Christ already took your captivity. So even the sins from your generation and past bloodline in the book of Exodus, when he says you shall bear the sins of your forefathers, Christ came in and stepped in. So even though the enemy is still using that against you, you have to understand that it has become illegal. So when Satan is not going to stop accusing you, he's going to still stand before the righteous judge. Now, the reason why we blame God, because we don't understand the role of God in this picture. God cannot behold sin. So if you're waiting for the enemy to stop accusing you, or for when he accuses you and God to step in and say, no, he didn't do it yet. There are times where God becomes your advocate, but you see, at this present time, God gave his only begotten son. He said, all power have I given to my son Jesus. God doesn't have the power to stop it. You have the power to stop it. Because when God gave the power to Jesus to step in, and we keep asking God, rescue us, Jesus died on the cross for us and became our advocate, and we became one with Christ, right? So now in the court system, if the enemy is accusing you, you have to understand who you're in partnership with. God cannot rescue you from that captivity. You rescue you from that captivity. You know why? Because he said we have become co-heirs with Christ. He said we are complete in Christ Jesus, who is the head over all principalities and power. Not I that liveth, but Christ that liveth in me. You got to approach the court system of heaven. If you know that you have been wrongfully accused and held in if there's a blessing, a promise that God has given to you, and you still have not had it yet, stop taking the wrong person to court. Take the devil to court. He's always taking us to court. As I was saying, a flaw in the original judgment. or other legality. After exoneration, you have the right to pursue damages for the time spent in prison. I didn't say this. This is the law. This is the law. It was in my words. Now, see, we got options, right? You have the right to pursue damages for the time you spent in prison. See, God, that's why God is saying, I can't rescue you like this. You don't even get it. You're asking me to deliver you. It's beyond deliverance. It's about exoneration, restoration. It's justice. Justice is restoration. Understand that as you're coming out of the prison, you're not going to come out as a normal man starting from scratch. No, that's not where God is going to pull you out from. If that's the case, then it's a waste of time. It is a waste of time. Understand this. Exoneration. Listen, there's something called, in legal terms, the expungement of records, right? Yeah. So it says it is a procedure whereby a court orders the annulment and destruction of records. This is a physical court system of an arrest or other court proceedings. Some jurisdictions provide that an individual arrested and not convicted may apply to a court or order of expungement. You see, does that sound familiar? Expungement of records. Isn't that Colossians 2:14? When he said he blotted out the handwritings that was once against us. He nailed it to the cross. This is what we're called expungement of records. Understand your rights. We got to switch our mindset of what we call deliverance. If God is about to deliver you, you have to understand it is your moment of triumph. It is not just to be set free. There is an expungement of records. That's the first step. Now he's going to wipe out everything from your history. You coming out of prison. Now, the enemy, see, when God blots out the handwritings of records that were against you, when there's an expungement of records, the enemy, guess what that happens to the enemy? He becomes silence. The same things he was using to accuse you. Maybe you used to be a thief. Maybe you used to be a womanizer. Maybe your bloodline was this and that. When you step in and become a partner with Christ and you surrender to Jesus and the blood begins to wipe out every single handwriting that was against you, the enemy has no right to step in the prison and say that same thing because it's been wiped out. He has no record. It's expunged. That's the first step. Understand this. That's why this burden of shame. When you've been delivered, why do we hold back from sharing our testimonies? Why are we ashamed of they are old records. You can't even find them unless I tell you. This is why when you come out of prison, you don't look like what you've been through. You don't look like the years of captivity. When you've been in jail, you had nothing to eat. You had no money. You were oppressed. You were sick. But when God rescues you and decides to restore you, you can never look like what you've been through. If I tell you some of my story, you're going to be like, no, that wasn't you. Yeah, because I've been expunged. My old records have been wiped away clean. And now I'm stepping into the position that God has for me because it's not about me, it's about the nations. Now, see, in order to get compensation, which is the restoration, there are two options that happens in the legal court system, right? When people are exonerated, they have the two options, which is the exoneration statutes and the civil rights claim. Exoneration statutes is the physical monetary compensation of everything you missed out on the years that you've been in prison, as we mentioned before. So if you've been in prison for in the state of, I think, California, for the people, the imprisoned ex-convicts that have been exonerated, they have the rights to claim $80,000 for each year they have been held captive. So we're talking about the man that was in prison for 10, 20 years, steps out of prison a millionaire? How does that happen? But that's the same thing that happened to Joseph. He was in prison from 17. His whole destiny was supposed to be gone. But God said, you might have been in prison, but because I am the God of restoration, I'm about to take you back and then take you all the way to where you were supposed to be anyway. That, and not even just that, but beyond where you were supposed to be. If Joseph was never in prison, would he really have been a prime minister? He would have had to go the normal process like everybody else. But because I've been locked up illegally, guess what? Because of my illegal, I'm going to get my rights and get compensated. That's the first step, right? Okay, now we're not even done yet. Woo, thank you, Jesus. Now you're going to pay me for all the years that I missed out on. But I'm going to take it a step further because, see, it wasn't fair. It was illegal. So the payment is still not even enough. I'm going to put in a civil rights claim. So now the civil rights claim is when you sue the devil. You see, the devil is the accuser of the brethren, right? Guess what I become? The accuser of Satan. So even when you're not messing with me, I'm taking you to court. That's when you become a battle axe. That's when you become a warrior. And you say, oh, Satan, I just feel like troubling you today. Oh, you see all them souls? I'm coming to clear your whole entire system. I'm putting in my civil rights claim. Your civil rights are your rights as a humanitarian. I have the right to do this. I have the right to do that. When it is violated, you have the right to sue the system. See, Satan was the god of the world, right? That's the system he operated in. But when that jurisdiction was handed over to Christ and you became a co-heir with Christ, now I step into the place. Now Satan, I'm getting a little greedy, but it's not really greed. It's called restoration. So when God said, are you going to stop at the exoneration statutes? No, I'm not. I want to sue the devil. See, I want more. I want more. Okay, yeah, you had me. You see, remember when I was 10, Satan? That experience you deprived me of, run it. I want it back. Remember that school that you decided to deprive me of? Run my stuff. Remember the house that you took away from me? Now run it. I don't just want mine, I want yours. I want everything you got. Take it out of the prison. Give it to me. I'm going to put in my civil rights suit because saying, I know my rights. How dare you try to imprison me? Then the devil don't even want to mess with you no more because he like, every time I come near her, she stay bothering me. Yeah, guess what? You've been bothering me all these years. I'm going to be a thorn in your whole kingdom. I'm going to be the one to step in because what you did, you didn't know that I was an advantage in the prison. I was flexing my muscles. I was lifting weights. You ever seen an inmate? They went into prison skinny and they came out bulky. Well, that's me. So I don't know if that's you. I was in prison flexing my muscles, getting ready for the day of my civil rights lawsuit. Oh yeah. Listen, and guess what? You're going to hear from my lawyer. His name is Jesus, okay? That's the first one. Listen, thank you. The Lord is telling me that everybody in this place tonight, take a good look at them. You will never be able to recognize these people in just but a moment because God is getting ready to take each and every single one of you from not this place, but to a catapult of where you are supposed to be in the place of restoration. I need the cameraman to take a screenshot of all these people. They're going to come and look for you at this very place, and they will never find you because of restoration. They will never find you. There's about to be a change of levels. Some people, it's going to look like you're going to be a millionaire overnight. I remember my brother Kaz here. He said, when you get into partnership with God, he begins to entrust you. He begins to entrust you with deals that average people can't get. So not only am I being exonerated, but I'm about to be on an upward journey. The place where you saw me yesterday, if you look behind, you're not going to see me there no more because there's about to be a change of levels. Hallelujah. Give God a shout of praise. Is anybody in expectation here tonight? I need you to recognize who you are as people. This is of the revival that we're talking about. When God can develop a nation of people who will look at themselves and say, I am not a person, I'm a nation. So I am important. The devil shouldn't have access to your mind anymore. See, the devil was so mad that I was going to be here today because I'm about to quench the mindset of inferiority complex. How can you be inferior when you got a whole nation in your belly? How can you be inferior when there is a whole demographic of people dependent on you saying yes? Does that make any sense? Let's make room for justice. Come on now. Come on. Now, let's be seated. Hallelujah. I'm about to land. Thank you, Lord. So, now, God likes it when you begin to rise up and know who you are, now that's when God said, you know, I want to partner with you too. I'm looking, I might be the judge, but just give me a reason to fight the enemy. That's why he said, Isaiah 43:26, he said, let us contend together. Do you know what it means for that's the man of God here said it yesterday. Let us contend together. God is looking for people to strategize and destroy the kingdom of darkness. Let us contend together. State your case so that you may be acquitted. When he says see, when you go to court, it's a fair trial, right? It may be, you may be not guilty, maybe you may be guilty. But when God says, let us contend together, he is guaranteeing you a continuous victory over and over and over and over again. Thank you, Jesus. Now, I'm going to give you another scripture here. How to sue the devil. How do we file a lawsuit against the devil? Well, number one, you're going to show up with Luke 11:22. It says, when a stronger than he comes upon him. You see, you don't show up on a lawsuit by yourself. You come with the baddest lawyer on the block. When you see, how do you think that people that committed the crime get away free? Check the lawyer out. You got to come with the stronger than he. Yeah, the devil is a strong man. Let's not get it twisted. But who do we serve? A stronger than he. When he comes upon him and overcomes him, he takes from him all his armor in which he trusted. Listen, when you file in a lawsuit, you see, when an exonerated man comes in and begins to file a civil rights lawsuit, the system automatically has a tense in it. Now we done called your bluff. So when they see that man, there's a fear that comes into the system. I wrongfully accuse this man, so I'm willing, the guards are down. I am willing to give you whatever it takes for you to be silent and stop coming for this system. So you got to come in with the stronger than he, so that when he overcomes him, he takes from him his own armor. So now the devil is completely disarmed. He's stripped. He's powerless. But check this out. I came to sue the devil. He said in the last part, and he divides his spoils. That means that Satan, I told you earlier, I came for my stuff. But because I came with the stronger than he, why don't we just come in and completely ransack the whole entire place up? I came for this lawsuit, but guess what? There's more. You got you know Satan has stuff. Did you know that? There are certain positions that the devil has kept aside for his children. But God is trying to tell us, see, you got the stronger than he on your side. So what is that position they say that believers can't have? Oh, I'm about to step in and take your spoils. Or they said a Christian can't be president. Guess what? You got the stronger than he. Oh, they said a Christian can't be a billionaire. Guess what? You got the stronger than he. They told you that you couldn't have children the normal way until you compromise. Guess what? I'm not going to compromise, and I'm going to still get my stuff, okay? They told you that you can get into some hierarchy places because it is reserved for the so-called cultists and all of that. But when you have the stronger than he, the sky becomes your starting point. I need you to understand the system that we are a part of. We are a part of a heavenly body. We are a part of a jurisdiction that has no limits. God is the owner, and we take capitalization on this earth. You got to switch your mindset. Is anybody's mindset switching in this place today? I don't want to hear from you after this that, oh, I don't know what to do. What you mean you don't know what to do? You got the stronger than he. Did you open the Bible and understand your civil rights? Did you go in and understand your Constitution? Your Constitution is your covenant package. What did it say about you as a believer in Deuteronomy 28? What did it say about you, what God did in Isaiah 53? What did it say about you in Isaiah 49? What does it say about you? You don't even know your Constitution? How are you going to stand in a court? Get in your word. Get in this. When I begin to understand the word, and I begin to ask God, Lord, open my eyes of Rema, so that I may be enlightened. I prayed Ephesians 1:17-18. Open the eyes of my understanding, that I may be enlightened. God is not going to phone speed it to you. He's already made it available. You have to tap in and ask for it. Ask for it. When the rhema comes upon you, it intoxicates you. You begin to move with a light. You begin to understand your rights, your civil package, and all of a sudden injustice becomes completely irritating to you because you can fix it. So when God decides to divide the spoils, guess why he's doing it? Because people out there that don't have a voice need your voice. God is going to give you stuff that Satan captured of other people so that you can release it unto them. That's why God is saying, I want to partner with you and save this generation, because there are people out there that will never know Jesus until you step into your place of authority and rescue them, rescue their stuff so that they can step into the place that God has for them. That's what this whole thing is about. Now, we're almost landing. Thank you, Jesus. Hallelujah. How do we continue to live a restored life and stay out of prison? Because, yeah, you done got your stuff. You done got empowered. Now you know your rights. But how do we stay restored and a life out of prison? We have to become a prisoner of the Lord. There are two kinds of imprisonment. If you want to stay out of one prison, you got to get in one prison. You have to get into the prison of the kingdom. I looked up the word captivity. I looked up the Hebrew meaning. And it says, a prisoner is a captive of someone else. The devil has tainted our idea of what it means to be in prison. But you can never stay or live free. You may be free for a certain time, but if you choose not to surrender your life to Christ, you will be right back in the prison that the devil had you in the first place. The only way to stay restored and unimprisoned is to become a prisoner of Christ. See, Galatians 2:20 says, I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I that live, but Christ that lives in me. In order to be a prisoner of the Lord, you have to choose to die daily. That is the requirement to be free. See, a lot of believers don't want to hear that. You can't be free and be pompous. No. You got to die to this flesh. When you see true kings in the kingdom, they bring themselves very low before God. When you see true kingdom practitioners, there is a choice that they made. God, I will be crucified with you for all eternity. You didn't make me like this for me to represent myself. The only way to remain free. See, when you're a captive of Jesus, it is an oxymoron, because a captive of Jesus is not really bound. A captive of Jesus has more freedom than the most free man you can find in the whole of America. A captive of Jesus truly has the kind of jurisdiction that a so-called free man could never operate in. When you choose to say, Christ, I die with you, that even when people decide to turn on you, even when people decide to defame your name, he said, be silent, hold your peace, and I will be your defense. That's because you decided to be a captive of Jesus. You cannot stay free if you don't choose to take the cross and follow him. When you're a captive of Jesus, it means to die to your will. That means you wake up every day and say, God, what do I do today? Where do I go today? Should I buy that house? I may have the money, but if God said, no, you can't do it. If God said, change your outfit, then do it. If God said, change your friends, then do it. If God said, walk away from your family, you got to do it. Because as a captive of Jesus, you have to choose which freedom you want. You want the freedom of the world, or you want the freedom of Christ? If we can get, see, when you die daily, you understand that the things of this world will just pass away. There's a bigger eternity, a weight of glory. There's a bigger reality that we need to get past this earthly conception of stuff and positions. It's bigger than that. God said, I will give you restoration, not just in this world, but the world to come. It's about eternity. There are people dying every day and going to hell fire. Hell is real. It is a real place. And until we get to the position of dying every single day, even when it hurts, even when it's inconvenient to serve the Lord, Even when it's going to cost you some of the things that you feel like, why don't the normal people get to have? It is a choice that I will make every single day of my life, because if not for God and being a prisoner of the Lord, I would have been a prisoner in the real captivity, because where Christ took me from was a place of nothingness. The only way to stay out of that prison is to tell God, even when you don't know how to die, Lord, get yourself up in the morning. Father God, thank you for delivering me. Thank you for restoration, Lord. Thank you for all the stuff you've empowered me with. But Father God, I bring myself low. I bring myself low. I might not know how to die to the flesh, but Lord, if you teach me how to be crucified, I surrender. It is a cry of surrender. How many times do we wake up in the morning and cry out to God and say, Lord, I surrender. Kill my flesh. Kill it. You want to be free? You got to be a prisoner of the Lord. You want to walk in the ultimate jurisdiction of Christ? You have to die so that he can come in your body and live through you. You can't have it both ways. You can't ask God for freedom and say, I want to be without and free of you. It doesn't make any sense. I need you to choose today to surrender your life to that cross, to begin to understand your jurisdiction, to be able to understand your empowerment, and surrender it all to Christ. That's the first step of what it is. And I want to do an altar call before we get into prayers tonight. Thank you, Jesus. If there is anybody here, and even watching me online, if you have not yet surrendered to Christ, I need you to make that decision right now. Because being in prison is no fun, but just imagine an imprisonment of all eternity. An eternity of gnashing of teeth, an eternity of pain. See, the churches don't preach about hellfire anymore because we want to move on to prosperity and things like that. But it's bigger than just deliverance here. It's about the true freedom. If you know that you have not surrendered to the cross, Christ died that you don't have to go to that place. Christ spent 3 days in hell fire so that you don't have to go there anymore. He literally put himself on the cross and nailed your sins to the cross. If anybody here wants to surrender their lives to Christ, just raise your hand. If anybody here has not surrendered, thank you, Jesus. Can I have the psalmist sing, I surrender all, please? Thank you, Lord Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Yes, Lord. Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you, Jesus. I surrender.
Just examine yourself for a second. Have I really given him my all? Am I practicing religion, or am I truly dead to the flesh? Have I given up my ways, my desire, my pride, my arrogance? Have I said yes? Thank you, Jesus. For those watching, and maybe you're raising your hand where you are, I just need you to repeat after me. Lord Jesus, I come to the cross today. I've lived a life of captivity. I've tried it the other way, and I'm tired. Lord, I'm ready to receive the finished work of grace on the cross. I know that you didn't die in vain, Lord. I surrender my life to you, and I accept you as my Lord and Savior. From this day forward, it is not I that liveth, but Christ that liveth in me. Thank you, Jesus. If you know you said that prayer, just rejoice, because heaven rejoices over you. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Now, before we lead into the next prayer session, I'm going to just ask y'all to rise up right now. We're going to pray a prayer of restoration. We're going to make room for justice. We're going to make room for justice. And I need us to be praying as the man of God comes up to take his position. Now that you're a co-heir of Christ, step into the courtroom. It is your right. You don't have to choose to stay captive anymore. You don't have to choose to be sick anymore. By his stripes, you were healed. Cancer is illegal in your body. AIDS, heart disease, it is illegal in your body. And God is not just here to just deliver you from that cancer. He wants to give you a completely new state of health. You cannot agree to be poor. There are opportunities out there that God has for you. He said, I will teach you how to get wealth. I will teach you how to prosper. We're going to enter into the courtroom today. Thank you, Jesus. We repeat after me. Say, I step into the courtroom of heaven, and I approach you as my righteous judge. But this time, I position myself as the plaintiff, with Satan as the defendant. I've come to put in my civil rights lawsuit. The devil held me in captivity. But according to John 8:38, he who the Son sets free is free indeed. So as I approach you as my righteous judge, I'm here to get not just my stuff, but the devil owes me the spoils. Not just for me, but for my whole generation. So I receive justice according to the court system of heaven. Everything that the devil stole from me, I take it back now. All the years that the cankerworm has eaten, I receive a sevenfold restoration. Begin to open your mouth and begin to speak the things that the enemy deprived you of. Take it back, take it back, take it back, take it back. Everything, everything. It is your jurisdiction. Somebody's destiny is changing after today. Open your mouths. The enemy cannot give it to you without you opening your mouth. A civil rights lawsuit is held by the person who was detained. They have to approach them. They have to speak for it. You have to put in for it. Take it back. If the enemy oppressed you in marriage, take your happy home back. If the enemy got your children, take your children back. If the enemy held your dignity, take it back. Take it back. Take the glory. Take everything. It's yours. Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you, Jesus. In the name of Jesus. Wow. Tell somebody, make room for justice. Justice is fair, because you are going to get everything back, and times 7 in the name of Jesus.